Good evening. Welcome to the Dominance Academy. I am your host, Mr. Justin. Guess I'm gonna have to do that later. So I was trying to set up running TikTok live, but I didn't do the preliminaries. I didn't realize that I have to verify my age and all this bullshit. So I'll have to set that up next time. Next time. Whatever. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Whew. Busy couple days. I hope everybody had a fine Halloween. Yes, I know she will. All right, what's up, Phil? Good to see you, man. Yeah, so I hope everybody who celebrated Halloween had a good and safe Halloween. A lot of crazy stuff goes down. People lose their freaking minds on Halloween. It's weird. I feel like this doesn't happen in other countries. Like just in the US, they're like, let's fuck everything up. But, that's how Americans roll sometimes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, yeah. I didn't do anything. I just hung out at home. All right, next yeah. Looked at all the wonderful costumes, children coming through and offering candy and all that good stuff. All right, so we're going to be talking about power tonight. Power, because I gave like a little like offline workshop. I mean, it was online, but it wasn't like streaming or anything like that. And there was, some good questions in there. They're like, well, how do you set up, like when you're first meeting a woman, how do you make it so that you're not just this guy who has like friend energy, who's slowly trying to make it into something sexual? And it's a good question. Like how do you come through and already have it established that you're not here to be friends? I think that's very important. And a lot of it, just like much of this stuff, starts internally, with your mental framework and things like that. But there's also how you talk and what you talk about that makes a huge difference. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we can't get too explicit for YouTube, but also, I don't want to give away too much of the stuff that my paying clients get, but I can give you a little bit, because it's important for people to try these things out and get in the right headspace in order to do these things. So I wrote a little something for this, and so we'll get into that first, and we'll have ourselves a little discussion about what we read and put some more meat on the plate. All right, so let me just pull that up, and we will get rolling. We will get rolling. Where are we here? Okay, so this is called Creating the Power Differential. Oh, wait, I guess I don't need this. So the idea is that you don't need to create a power differential by trying to dominate any woman or anyone at all, right? You create it by being the calmest, most certain presence in the room. And a woman feels hierarchy through her nervous system contrast. So when your energy is settled, when your voice doesn't reach, when you see without grasping, she feels the gravity. And that's the very beginning. And most men go into an interaction hoping to earn interest. When you walk in already owning it, that's the difference between chasing approval and embodying authority. So before you meet her, slow everything down. Sit for a moment, breathe through your nose, out through your mouth, and drop your shoulders. Tell yourself that I'm the one who does the choosing. You're not convincing yourself. It's a reminder that your worth isn't up for debate, that you're in a position of leadership, a position of authority. You're not convincing yourself of anything, right? It's just a reminder. So hold your spine straight, your chin level, and deep breathe into the belly. When your body signals calm dominance, her body reads it before her mind interprets it. So, for example, you walk into a cafe to meet a girl. Most men scan the room fast and looking eager. You walk in slow, eyes soft but certain. You see her, you let a half smile flicker, not a grin, and you take your time crossing the room. You set your jacket down like you own time itself. That moment of unhurried control establishes the first layer of hierarchy. A woman's nervous system calibrates to the tempos around her. If your speech is fast and pitched high, you're matching her rhythm. You want her matching yours. So practice talking in shorter phrases, ending sentences down, not up. So for example, instead of saying, "You like that?" you say, "You like that." You turn a question into a statement. Silence is part of your grammar. After a statement, let the pause hang. She'll fill it with reaction, with breath, with compliance, or more words of her own. Try this exercise. Read any paragraph aloud, and then after every full stop, exhale and wait a heartbeat before the next line. You'll hear how authority lives in the spaces, not in the words. So the framing through language is what you have to pay attention to as well. The frame isn't what you talk about, it's how you talk. When you refer to her, use phrasing that subtly places her inside your world, not possessive, but contextual, right? So instead of "you're so cute," try "that's a cute look on you." One puts you under her spell, the other shows observation from above the field. Or when you tell a story, say "most girls I spend time with," instead of "most women I date." So that slight shift, girl versus woman, drops her unconsciously into a more receptive role. She doesn't rationalize it, just her body will react. But the real key isn't the word, it's the tonality behind it. Speak with a slow, warm certainty that carries authority without arrogance. She feels you're not testing the waters. You've already decided how the waters are going to move. So everywhere you place your focus becomes charged. When you study her eyes too long, it reads as hunger. When you let your gaze travel slowly from her eyes to her mouth to her hand resting on the table, then back to her eyes, it reads as inspection. She feels seen. She'll feel seen through, not really looked at or gawked at. So, for example, she's speaking quickly. She's maybe a little nervous. You tilt your head just a fraction and narrow your eyes slightly and say, "Slow down," and then wait. She'll mirror your pace because the directive came from grounded energy, not impatience. That's how dominance works in public without anyone noticing. And when you say something like that, it's like just this observation. It shows that you are really observing her and not necessarily paying attention to her words, because frankly, her telling you about her trip to Europe last year is not all that important. But if you see that she's carrying on with this higher tension sort of energy while she's talking, and then you say, slow down, it shows that you guys are not on the same level. So that's one point. And it also shows that you're observing her and her behavior, which will cause her to, get a little bit shy, but also the comfort coming from your suggestion to basically say, hey, it's okay, you can relax here. So when you're doing something along those lines, right, it's also important to have what's called micro corrections. Okay. And you're not really trying to like boss her around or control things. Okay. What you're doing is you're just kind of guiding the waters a little bit. That's all you're trying to do. So, sorry, like a micro correction would be like, if she interrupts, say you're telling a story or something like that, and she pops in, right, unannounced, with her interjection, and you raise a finger, right, not rudely, just enough to like catch her attention and pause her mid-sentence, and you say, hold that thought, and then finish what you were saying. Continue as if nothing ever happened. You've just drawn a boundary without creating tension. All right. Or like if she's fussing with her hair constantly, and you lean forward slightly with a soft voice, and you say, leave it, and then go on with the conversation. And when she obeys, even unconsciously, she's entered your rhythm. And these aren't tricks. They're feedback loops that teach her nervous system that you're the container, that she feels relief inside it. Okay. And again, that same observation of leave it means that you're not really caught up in the words that you're saying or the whole conversation between the two of you, but you're observing her behavior and you're making notice of it. So there's like a shift, like, because it's going to make her feel seen, but also the pressure from being seen. But then you're not taking advantage of that. You're actually soothing it. Eventually, what comes up in these types of conversations is testing and holding. So eventually she'll test, every woman does. They have to check and see. They have to check and see if you are the guy that she thinks you are, because that's not enough to go on. It's just her imagination. So she might challenge something you said, tease you, delay a reply, or pull her attention away mid-conversation. And most men, what they'll do is they'll chase the reassurance, but you don't. You stay composed. A slow smile, maybe a quiet, Then you change the subject or let the silence hang until she comes back to you. That lack of reaction tells her she's inside your orbit, not the other way around. So for example, she says, you think you can just tell me what to do? And you pause and then give her an amused glance, maybe like smile with your eyes. And then you say, seems like you already like that. And then you move on. No debate. You just move the conversation right along to something else. And she'll feel both seen and subtly contained. And then also that you're not one to follow into her orbit. So the next thing to remember here is consistency. So power is greatly misunderstood, is that it's not done in it's not done in grand gestures. All right, it's in continuity. Every time you maintain the same tone, she relaxes deeper into it. When you laugh, don't break frame. When you're playful, Don't lose your own gravity. The moment you oscillate, serious then apologetic, you signal instability. Women read emotional steadiness as safety. Safety is what allows for the polarity. So never match her spikes. If she gets loud, don't get loud with her, get quieter. If she speeds up, don't match that, slow down. And that's how gravity wins over fire. So there's also what to keep in mind here is the energy fields, right? If we can kind of get a little bit out there. So dominance is a frequency. When you meet someone, your nervous systems sync. The dominant one is the one who breathes slower. So try this experiment next time. Mid-conversation, consciously drop your breath rate by half, and you'll see her shoulders ease and her voice soften within a minute. No words needed. And it's nothing mystical, it's just biology. The parasympathetic nervous system mirrors leadership. So you're telling her body, I've got you, without ever saying it. So in these situations, just pay attention to your breath and then just try to slow it down. And make sure that you're not breathing with your chest, but more so breathing with your stomach. So when you inhale, your stomach should actually expand. And then when you exhale, it contracts. So another aspect of this, creating the power differential, is narrative framing. So you'll tell stories where you're the decisive force, not the victim of circumstances. Instead of, I once dated someone who treated me badly, say, I realized early on what kind of energy I allowed near me. Your past becomes evidence of discernment, not a wound. Then she learns about you through implication. Each sentence paints you as the steady axis she can spin around. And so it's very important to understand what words you're using. So it is important what people say. They say it's not important what you say, it's about how you say it. Yes, that's true. But also understand words themselves have power. So there's a big difference between saying, I once was with someone who treated me badly versus I realized what kind of energy I allowed near me. Because that means that you're conscious of what you allow and disallow. And she'll learn about this. It gives her an idea like what kind of man you are based around just the words that you use. So when she does relax, when she does come into your frame and she becomes softer, acknowledge it. Not with praise, but with recognition, right? So you can say like, good, stay right there, say exactly, short, low, warm. That's positive reinforcement without neediness. All right. So it's using like affirming type words. Okay. If she pushes back on this stuff, which I doubt, you don't punish. All right. You simply withdraw a bit of attention, change your tone, or shift focus. The absence of your energy becomes the correction. So, for example, if she's being a little sharp or deflective, you lean back, look away, let the air between you cool. Within moments, she'll reach to pull you back within the field with sweetness of her own. That's her nervous system craving the equilibrium under your lead. So, and again, that's also setting like silent boundaries. It's saying, I don't approve of your behavior right now. Not so much that I'm going to get up and leave or ask you to leave, but I'm just going to disengage. And it shows her that you really have no fear for this. You're more than willing to just drop the conversation like mid-verb and sit back. All right? And it's no big deal to you. So So in public, hierarchy lives in micro details. The way you walk ahead by half a step, the way you guide her with a hand at the small of her back through a doorway, the way you order drinks without asking her permission, but still ask for her preferences. Private spaces allow fuller expression, but it all starts in the public micro gestures. So if you need loud dominance to feel dominant, you haven't really internalized it just yet. And these little micro calibrations can be done a lot, and they're really important for setting up, to see just how receptive she is to your direction. So let's say the two of you arrive somewhere and you say, sit here, right? And you like kind of usher your hand like towards where she's going to be sitting. Okay. That's one way. Okay. Say like if you're leaving, you don't even have to say anything. You just take your hand and put the hand out with your palm up, signaling her, take my hand, right? As you leave the establishment and, and walk across the street or something along those lines. You can say, like, if say she's wearing a jacket, you could say, I'll take your jacket, or give me your jacket. And there's all these little commands that are like socially acceptable, right? These are things that people just naturally do in these spaces. And so it's pretty easy for you to utilize this stuff. Really, really easy. You just kind of have to have the confidence to basically say fuck it and try these things out. Okay, so a little bit about the psychological architecture of what's going on here. Power differential, and this is kind of what I was leaning on about with the confidence. Okay, power differential isn't cruelty. Understands that dominance is about containment. So you provide the shape, she provides the flow. Okay? Like water doesn't really know what shape it's in until it's poured into a glass. And then it takes the shape of that glass, or a water pitcher, or cup, or whatever. So without your stillness, her water can spill everywhere. Without her emotion, your structure is like dry stone. It can stand on its own, but it's not really completing its abilities. Okay? So your job is to hold, not to own. That's the real essence of what some call a daddy archetype. All right? The mature authority that steadies the feminine, not control for its own sake. All right. And this is kind of what you want to encourage, right? So like, because the guy asking me, he was like, we were talking about like this, the interplay between like the daddy energy and the little girl energy. And the thing is that, despite like whatever terms we use, I've mentioned before, guys have this like split identity and girls have this split identity. And in the guys, it's split between the protector and the destroyer. All right. And within girls, it's the little girl and the whore. And there's within the little girl and in the protector, there's certain types of nurturing that each one can express. Okay. And then within the destroyer and the whore, there's indeed like a very distinct outward expression of that. All right. And I believe that your role is to encourage and nurture both of those to come through. All right. Now, if you're in a public setting, encouraging her like, inner whore is not going to work out so well, namely because there's people around that can see, and women know that people judge like crazy. So it's not really going to happen. Not that much. Kissing is acceptable, maybe even some fondling, but aside from that, anything more, people are going to judge like crazy. Okay. So it's more important that you encourage her little girl to come out. And I've told you that inside every grown woman is a little girl. And that's why I often refer to them as girls, to kind of remind myself, if I see like this grown, sophisticated woman, if I refer to as a girl, it reminds me that, like, yeah, despite me seeing what I see, I know that inside there's a little girl that like wants to have fun, that wants to feel safe, that wants to feel looked after. And so in your interactions, the idea is through your presence and your ability to kind of deal with whatever she kind of puts out there, which is just an expression of her armor, right? Like people like kind of lose their minds and too much discussion about shit tests. It's just part of her armor. That's all it is. It's just part of the armor. And by your presence, you can basically, and through a little bit of swatting of them, here and there, but it basically shows her that it's solid over here. It's solid and relaxed, and you don't need that stuff. And in fact, I'm going to address the girl underneath the armor, behind the shit tests. Right? If you spend too much time on the surface, you never really get to her. So I want to get to her, who's behind all of that stuff. And you speak to it slightly by giving commands that are just grounded, relaxed, making those observations, like where you tell her, like, slow down. Okay. Or you tell her, like, take a breath or anything along those lines. You swat away her shit test. Like I said, like, seems like you already like that when she's saying, like, you think you can just tell me what to do. Just playfully doing these things. Using words of acknowledgement, right? Like if she does something, you say good, giving that sensation that like you are the one who's watching her for her behavior, not the other way around. And and in all this, like your tone is really, really important, that she doesn't get this edge from you at all, right? And that's where that kind of that daddy dom energy comes through. And even using words that are like infantilizing, okay, or behaviors that infantilize her. So like, for example, let's say the two of you have gotten a little more comfortable, you've had a drink or whatever, and let's say she gets up to go use the restroom, like from your booth or your table or something like that. And maybe there's a decent amount of like leg room between, the top of your thigh and the table itself or what have you. And when she comes back, you can take like a double tap on your thigh to signal to her to come sit on your lap. Right? Now, of course, this has to be calibrated, right? If before she does anything, you can see whether there's that sexual energy. You utilize the 5 criteria, right? The sexual interest, enthusiasm, curiosity, open-mindedness, and coachability. So before you go off and do something like that, make sure that those things are active. And then you can shift it to something more physical. But it's not groping, it's not kissing, it's not being anything sexual. You're infantilizing her, and you just do a little double tap on your thigh, signaling her to come sit on your lap. And I'm fairly certain that if those 5 criteria are in place and they're all active, she will come and sit on your lap. And it will feel good. And this is more powerful than arousing her. Much more powerful. Because you're getting at an emotion right? Arousal is definitely powerful, but emotions are even more powerful. And this is a certain kind of emotion that has to do with the little girl inside, right? And the fact that you have the confidence to, in public, in a non-sexual scenario, signal to her to come sit on your lap. And then after she does that sort of thing, then you give the recognition, the acknowledgement, and your approval, right? Good. Make an assumptive phrase like, that's better, isn't it? Like basically like answering for her, because you know it feels good. Especially if she's attracted to you, she's curious about you, she's showing enthusiasm, like she's been taking these small guidance with your noticing like her coachability, right? Her open-mindedness in the conversation, and not being like stuck in the brain with like a hard, firm mind. Okay. So every man really, he wants to be seen as powerful in one way or another. And if you can actually stay powerful when they're seen, the work is to become so internally anchored that no external behavior, hers or yours, shakes it. So you don't need to create a power differential by claiming these things. You create it by embodying what she wants to yield to. And the truth is, every woman wants to meet the man whose calm makes her storms feel purposeful. So, in short, that's basically how you can go about this. Like it's a little bit of basically having some balls to put this into action, and and it's a bit about using a bit of creativity and not being afraid of like how she reacts, because it's also coming from a new perspective. You're looking at things as though she's performing for your decision, not the other way around. And this is how you really have to think about it. I found green apple flavored seltzer. It's weird stuff. But anyways, so and this guy, he in the webinar, he was like, like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here, Mr. Justin, and I feel like for guys, it's about this balancing act. And I'm like, where's he going with this? And he's like, you're like this guy walking on the tightrope between these polarizing like ends, or kind of like being like the nice guy, who's like charming, and he can be that soft daddy sort of thing. And then the other side, which is more assertive, more aggressive, and so on. And I get where he was coming from. That's the protector and the destroyer. Okay. And the thing is it shifted. It really shifted when he said, and the woman is kind of like the gravity. And I'm like, oh man, I got him. And he says, it's like gravity's a force that's pulling you down. And so if you don't do it right, you'll get pulled right off that tightrope and you'll fall and get injured, and there'll be no mercy. You'll get fucked up. And I heard him say this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's got it backwards. And he's like, so what are your thoughts on that? And I said, well, first of all, you got it turned around. All right. I am the gravity. I am the inevitable, right? I'm the what eventually comes down. That's me. All right. And she's the one on the tightrope, deciding how to balance how she's showing up. This is what's important. Like having that framework shift. Okay. You're not here for them. They're here for you. And you have to just bring those thoughts in your mind, because Like, this is the danger of like watching social media, like YouTube stuff, and you know, TikTok stuff, and all this crap. Is that it reinstills the same messages like over and over, and the stuff just keeps you on edge. It keeps you worrying about how you look in the woman's eyes. And if you have this position, like at all, if you're worried about how you look in the woman's eyes, you are always going to fail, even if you end up fucking. Because even in the bedroom, you're going to be worrying about performance and being a good performer. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work in the long run, I promise. One of my guys, he was very much plagued with the disease of performance, right? And it wasn't performance anxiety, like afraid of doing a bad job, but like he knew he was all right in the bedroom, but he was always doing extra in the effort to maintain her sense of wow about him. And so this just means that like she was his barometer. He was always using that as some sort of measuring stick. And this is not a way to be commanding in the bedroom. It's not a way to be commanding at all. Now, if you're running behind women, like just to get some pussy, just to impress them so that you can get some pussy, or anything really, to get anything from them, you have lost. You're done. You're cooked. And that's the end of it. You have to go do a complete frame reversal on everything that you're doing. And this is super important stuff, because like, again, it doesn't matter if you fuck the girl, because like, at what cost? What did you sacrifice in order to get there? Was it your integrity? Was it your dignity? Was it your honesty? How much did you have to lie just to get between her legs? Now, this is this is the stuff that separates men from males. It's so he, my guy, he was very much preoccupied with performance, making sure that she was like really impressed by his abilities, and I would say, he probably had a decent bedroom skill set, but his mind was in the wrong place. And so I've been showing him a new way of thinking, a new way of going about this stuff. And he's no longer really concerned. I mean, he's got a little bit in there about being impressive, but he's gaining so much interest in the mental aspects of these things, and realizing that once you get into a woman's mind, there's so much more that you can do. There's so many options. And he's literally at the point where he's kind of like overloaded with ideas and things he wants to try. So he's like the opening up of his mind to himself by moving away from being so concerned about performing that he's overwhelmed. And I'm like, yeah, that's basically what happens. You open it up to so many possibilities, and it's only limited by your imagination. And it's the interplay of power simply by the use of your words. It doesn't have to involve restraints. It doesn't have to involve toys or anything like that. Just your head and your voice. That's all you really need. And so that's the same sort of stuff that you use outside the bedroom, at the bar, at the nightclub, at the cookout, or whatever. Okay. And the whole idea is that she's going to have a narrative. Okay. She's going to have a narrative in her mind about, or like, how do I explain this? So she becomes like a certain type of character within her fantasies. Right? She feels a certain way and thinks a certain way. And the male in her fantasies is a certain way as well. Okay. So in effect, by you embodying this authority, right, who's not being a jerk, but is just really calm, consistent, and decisive, it brings her into that fantasy and brings her into that character. So she starts living out the fantasy that's in her head. And it can slowly get to that point, to the, the part where she's, the sexualizing part. Okay. But that's later. All right. Because that guy, whoever he is in the bedroom in her mind, he behaves a certain way outside the bedroom. Right. And he's not like this super like controlling, commanding sort of dude. Right. It's that same character that you see all the time in film. All the time. Like, he's non-reactive. He's certain of himself. I keep saying grounded, but that's what it is. It's the grounding comes from certainty. It's a lack of doubt in oneself. And this gives off a feeling. And so she'll want to like test that. Like, is this guy for real? Or is he just putting on a show? All right. And certainly you could put on a show if that's what you want to do. If you're like, well, that's not who I am just yet. And that's okay. Because that's better than what you've been doing, right? Which is basically just floundering, taking shit and throwing it against the wall and hoping that it sticks. And, or you're just trying to like figure out lines and things to say while you're on YouTube. And that really just doesn't work, because you're still like following after. It's like, oh, there's the girl. I want to get the girl. So I learn the lines. And then, so you're like always like pandering to that. And it's really not going to work. Really not going to work for you. Okay. So you really just have to have the confidence and the lack of fear to say the things that you want to say. Right? Like, let's say she's, she comes in, you made a plan to meet up, and, she comes in and sits down right away, and like, hold up a second, right? Stand up for me. I didn't get a good look at that outfit, right? And she might like stand up, kind of like, what? Maybe thinking there's something wrong or whatever. And then you say, turn around for me. And she'll do a turnaround. And then you give her some sort of affirming remark, right? But nothing like, you look so pretty, right? Say like, you made a good choice tonight with that color. Okay, so you're affirming like her choices, not like her. The choice is beautiful. You're not sitting there fawning over her good looks. Okay. And the whole point of that is to just get past those exteriors, go to the person inside. Okay. And pay less attention to the person on the outside. It's hard, especially I get it. She's really pretty. It's hard for you to think straight, but this is how you've got to be thinking, right? That you're the authority here, trying to make a decision on whether you should take this girl seriously beyond this moment. And that's really how it works. And you notice that part that I was reading about, like, say, like ordering for her, like ordering a drink for her. I like cocktail dates. I have no problem with those. I'm not really into the whole masticating thing. Just chewing food in front of one another. It's just a weird concept altogether. It's strange to me. But cocktails, that seems fine. But anyways, you want to understand the preferences, right? But you choose amongst those preferences. And typically, like girls don't know wine, right? Maybe they know like a couple of mixed drinks or whatever, or something along those lines. But get to know the preferences. You know, if she's like, oh, I like fruity stuff or whatever. I mean, it's usually that's what girls like. It's like fruity, flowery, sweet, but not unbearably sweet. And then you can just kind of pick from there. All right. And if it's anything to do with wine, typically girls don't know much about wine unless they drink it a lot. And, you know, because usually they're like, I just like red. It's like, okay, there's 1 million different red wines in the world. You know, if you go to a good place, they're going to have a very long list of like what's red, coming from all different countries around the world. So, you know, basically, if grapes can be grown there, they make wine. And grapes being the you know, very hardy fruit, a lot of countries can grow grapes. So, but that's really what it's what it's about, you know. And by establishing these power dynamics, right? First, with your idea of that, like, I'm not following behind her, I'm not performing for her, she's performing for me. That alone, that mindset shift is often enough. You know, but you have to kind of keep yourself there, like reminders to yourself, obviously quietly, so that you can stay within that framework. Okay. And if you are ballsy enough, right, you can even refer to yourself, you know, in third person. You can refer to yourself as daddy if you want. You can try it out. Like, what's to be lost? Oh no, she might make fun of you. Or, oh no, she might disapprove. Well, I don't think if she has those 5 criteria down, right, that she's going to. Because if she's coachable, open-minded, enthusiastic, curious, sexual interest, it won't matter if you refer to yourself as daddy, right? If you want to. I mean, you don't have to. But that, you know, the guy who inspired this segment, you know, he was really curious about how to set up that whole you know, daddy dom little girl sort of dynamic. And it's not about age or anything like that. It's nothing, you know, perverse in that sense. It's about the energy, right? This feeling, the feelings, the combined feelings of feeling small, feeling vulnerable, feeling, yeah, just kind of more shy, you know, contrasted with confidence, with framework, with you know, covering, containing. You know, this is this is really what pardon me, really what sets it off. And so yeah, feel free to try to like refer to yourself as daddy. You know, I've heard many girls say that this is hot. Not that it matters what girls' approval is, but I'm letting you know, man, I'm letting you know that there's plenty of girls out there who, when they hear a man refer to himself in third person, there's something sexy about it. And I will sometimes refer to her in third person. You've heard me say the phrase "this girl," and I'll do this with girls that I've just met. Like, that's, you know, like, you know, when I was first communicating, you know, with my current sub, she like I off the bat referred to myself as daddy. I think I said, even without even seeing a picture of her, I think I said, you'd look really cute sitting on daddy's lap. I mean, she does, but I didn't know that. Like, and nor did I really care at the moment. It was just, that's what I wanted to say. It was just, how I wanted to express myself. And then I continued to just refer to her as this girl, which is, it's slightly infantilizing, but it's also slightly objectifying, but not in a sexual sense. It's just, well, let me say this, depersonalizing. Not objectifying, it's depersonalizing. So it's infantilizing and depersonalizing, but not with a malicious intent behind it. I'm not trying to cause harm. I'm not trying to make her feel bad or anything like that. It's more so words that fit my narrative. It fits right in with my persona, that someone like me, and I know she's perceiving me in a certain way, right? She already knew that I was a dominant. So she probably already had this preconceived notion of what that might be like. Okay. And I could have been wrong. And that's the whole point, is that I'm all right with that. And you guys should be all right with it too, with just taking action. And it really could have blown up in my face. She could have gotten offended. She could have gotten annoyed. She could have laughed. She could have blocked me immediately. But she didn't, right? And it's like, okay, I guess it's game on. And there's a lot of other things to it, but the thing is that if I didn't really believe in myself, if I didn't have conviction about how I'm showing up, then it would have resulted in unfavorable outcome. Because when you have doubts and fears, what will happen is that you will do things to prevent those fears from happening, which in turn causes them to happen. That's the funny part. So we often meet our destiny on the roads that we take to avoid it. And that was from Kung Fu Panda, if you've seen that movie before. Yeah. So your fears will make you take certain choices, take certain roads and certain behaviors, and in a way to avoid whatever that fear is, whether it's offending her or making her upset or her rejecting you. Your actions will actually to prevent that, would actually make you more distasteful. And because I think that humans are geared for recognizing authenticity. I think we can recognize the fake from the real. And that's going to get harder and harder now that AI is getting more and more sophisticated. I saw some shit today where I really could not tell. Usually there's telltale signs, like just the movement is weird, or hands are fucked up, or maybe people's faces in the background aren't moving, and none of that was present. All of it was there. I was like, holy shit, we're in for a wild ride moving ahead, But this is all the more reason for men to have more conviction in their own beliefs and their own perspectives on things, instead of just going with what is given to you. I think it's going to become even more of an asset to have a free mind. And, once you have that free mind and you do your best to mitigate the amount of influence that's pushed onto your mind, that's when you become more sovereign. I don't know if it's possible to become completely sovereign. I mean, unless you just like live in the woods and never have any connection or exposure to society. But you can become pretty damn sovereign. And that alone is just going to change your persona. It's going to change how you show up. And that often leaves a wake, just like a boat going through water. And the wake that is around you is something that she can feel. Like, girls can feel your sense of conviction. And it's the type of conviction that does not require proving it to her. And you don't have to impress the girl, right? In fact, she has to impress you. And don't let up. Don't let up on that mindset at all. Don't let up on that mindset at all. So from the very first day to the 3rd to the 27th day to the 100th day to the 500th day, like, you're always in that position. Always. The mindset of, like, I'm not performing for her, she's performing for me, right? Fluid is the active, containment is the still, right? So I do have my own burden, but it's not performance. Like, I can't stand that phrase that's given to men from the red pill space. You have the burden of performance. Well, first of all, no, we don't. And it's not a burden, right? Is it a burden for a mountain to be a mountain? No, not at all. Is a crucible, which is that large, very thick, like, looks like a giant coffee mug. Giant thick-walled coffee mug that molten metal is poured into. And then it's on this machine and it kind of carries it over to the mold, and then they kind of pour out the molten metal from there into the mold. So that bowl or that cup-like thing that holds the molten metal is called a crucible. And so if they're pouring molten metal inside it, obviously, and it must be very tough, very dense, very solid, can handle lots of heat. Like, be that. You don't have to perform. Like, a crucible doesn't perform. It just is. But its job has to be a formidable crucible. Sounds like a weird band's name, Formidable Crucible. Say that 10 times fast. So, but yeah, that's kind of like your performance, so-called, right? But you're not really performing. It's just like, that's the thing that's necessary for containment. Like, if you want a woman to flow into your frame and just fill out everything, just into all the nooks and crannies, right? Your shape has to be firm. It has to be dense, which means you can't have self-doubt. It means you have to work through your insecurities and not let your emotions lead you, not let your impulses lead you. Okay. And this is even part of creating a power differential, simply by not being swayed by her beauty or the fact that she has a pussy, right? That's a huge step, right? That's probably the first one, because that has to happen before you even meet a woman, before you meet a woman out, right? Doing something. But you guys, might be already thinking like, well, if it's not about her pussy, why am I talking to her in the first place? And that's, again, another shift. You're talking to her to see if she's worthy of your dick. That's what you're talking to her for. And by dick, I'm talking literally and figuratively, right? Because like, everything is like a dick. Like, your mind penetrates her mind. Your heart penetrates her heart, right? Your leadership penetrates her frame. Everything about you as a man is penetrative. So you just have dicks like everywhere, not just one. Okay. You have one physical one. That's about it. But there's many types of dicks that a man has. And so the reason why you're talking to her is not to get between her legs. Okay. It's not to get near any of her holes, right? It's to see if she's worthy of getting on your dick in one way or another. And if you have restraint, like we were talking about the other night, and you have the power to restrain your actual dick, like from going anywhere near her holes, then you're really just removing her one and only playing card. Like that, she's got one ace. And that's it. It's not even like a full hand, right? Or maybe like the rest of the hand is like, sub 10 cards, that sort of shit. And like one ace. And it's like, once that ace just can't be played, then it's like, well, how the fuck am I going to win? Oh, you win by being directed to win. And this is the best that you can do, is provide pathways for her to earn your approval. And this is the very best that you can do. And if she's enthusiastic, if she has the willingness, all those 5 traits, she's going to try. She's going to try. And if you're all along the way, you are offering her rewards through praise and recognition, acknowledgement, and even acknowledging her experience of it, right? So like when an example of this is like, say like a child is about to do something that they don't want to do, or they're scared of, or something like that. Like, let's say they're trying like apple slices for the first time. They're scared, they're unsure, it's this new food, it's weird, doesn't look like mac and cheese. And they try it anyways, right? And you speak to their experience by saying, now that wasn't so bad, was it? You're addressing the experience, not the person. And this is another way of showing authority, showing that the two of you are not on the same level, right? And not being on the same level doesn't mean better or worse. It just means position, okay? Like a pitcher and a first baseman are not on the same level. They're not. But it's due to position, not a level of importance. Okay, you remove either one, and it fucks up the whole dynamic. So necessary, but certainly not the same at all. Like, except that they're, on the same team, working together. And, shit, like even like a team captain, right? They just make good decisions. They're not better than any other player or more valuable than any other player. Like, certainly a captain is important for direction, but you take out some other player and you're like, well, fuck, now I've, as that guy, like I'm missing somebody that I need to make this whole thing function well. And so you have to be thinking of yourself in this manager sort of position. You're not her lover. You're not her boyfriend. I mean, she's going to think of you that way. She's going to think of you as her lover. She's going to think of you as her boyfriend. She might even be thinking of you as her husband, but you're not any of those things, right? Those are just assumed social positions, right? You're not any of those things at all. You have to separate yourself. Let's see here. Oh, not yet. Very good. Just waiting to hear back from a really cool potential business opportunity. So we'll see if that takes me back out to Southeast Asia. But this time to Bangkok. So I might be doing a workshop out in Bangkok. So if anyone has any travel plans, sometime in February, I'm going to be out there. The idea is down the line where I host my own workshops, and I would like to do it with my submissive. And what's really cool is that in Europe, there's tons of castles. There's like just these old castles everywhere. And, some of them have been restored, but still they sit there because they're just owned by the government. And you can rent them out for very, very cheap. There's other ones that have been co-opted by certain organizations, and they use them strictly for events. And there's transportation, there's an EMS on site, there's cooks, there's like a whole staff. So basically it's just like this all-inclusive thing, and you just pay your money and you set that up, okay, and you can have your event. And these castles are super cool. And so the idea is that I will find one of these castles. I know there's some in Germany, and I think some in Italy. And then the whole thing is just taken care of, and just have people come out, typically like couples, and do workshops. Be there for a few days, playing, learning, just being very fluid with it. Have like set up like a nice dungeon in there for people to play around in. But basically the whole place would have that. I think that'd be super cool. And have couples come through, and the environment itself would coax people into the right mindset. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So, again, like it's just everywhere. Like imagine taking a workshop, like a couples based BDSM workshop, and you're in like a convention room in a hotel, right? Like that's got a certain feel to it, versus you're taking the same sort of thing, but you're in this like castle from like the 14th century. Like it's going to feel completely different because it just changes the narrative. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here with setting up power differentials. You're altering their, like the limits of the woman's perception of what's happening. Thanks for stopping through, Mitch. Appreciate you. Oh, break time. Good. Yes. She can sit and watch and think about me. Don't be appalled. I know you're doing it anyways. So yeah, it's all about like just embodying that narrative and not being afraid to, right? And you might be thinking, well, that's fake. That's not really how I am. Well, I can guarantee that how you are now is not who you are either. That's assumed as well. So if you're going to be assuming, then just assume something that's a lot more fun. And I'll tell you what, that assuming a persona that does these sort of things, that gives direction, that tells her stuff that normally you would be uncomfortable telling her, giving certain commands or what have you, that's closer to your core than who you are right now. And because the core of a man, remember, there is that daddy in there, but there's also that fucking warlord. And it's like you put them together, and that's the dom. He's directing, he's feeling, he's speaking to her, like to her, not the woman or the girl that he sees or the girl that he hears. That surface persona that she showed up for. And then it's even more so because everybody takes the self that they think they are, and then they put their best foot forward. Like everybody, when they go on a date, they put their best foot forward, like at least the first couple times. And what's up, Ludwig? Good to see you, man. Yeah, so it's all fake, right? And so I think that you can just use this opportunity. You can use this opportunity to experiment. And that's about those 4 archetypes: the king, the warrior, the lover, and the magician. If you want to read more about that, just do a Google search for the king, warrior, lover, magician, and I think it's the art of manliness. Art of manliness. Yeah, I'll just put this in the chat. And there's a lot of information on this, and you basically have to like scroll through to get it like the other areas. Why isn't this opening? Oh, there we go. So yeah, if you go here, I'll put that in the chat. Very good. And this is a breakdown of a book called, the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, or whatever the fucking order is. And it's about Jungian psychology, who used a lot of symbols. Use a lot of symbols, archetypes, things like that. And so you can even think of yourself as a symbol, right? You are, because the woman's going to have her beliefs and perceptions about you regardless, right? So you have this assumed self. She has her assumed self. And then she casts her own beliefs and perceptions on top of your assumed self. So you've got layers of just nonsense. So why not just purposefully play with it? Why not? Because you like asserting yourself in this way, it's actually pushing you to be closer to your core, your dominant masculine presence. It's pushing closer to that. All right. But yeah, look through all this stuff. If you scroll down before you get to the other articles where it says like related posts, so there's like the introduction, and then it goes on into the boyhood archetypes. Gosh, I'm really yawning here. Looks like I'm going to have to pull this to a close. Might be because of daylight savings or something. I don't know. But there's the boyhood archetypes 1 and 2, the lover, the warrior, magician, and king. And, each each one looks like there's audio tracks on these. It gives you the breakdown of what the characteristics are like, as well as the underdeveloped and the rightly developed version, right? So there's like for the magician, just to kind of give you like an idea, where he's intellectually curious, he's about knowledge, looking at the world with wonder instead of judgment. Okay. And so like the underdeveloped one is like the know-it-all trickster, or the dummy, the precocious child. And then the getting towards the magician in his fullness, you can get like the detached manipulator, the denying innocent one. And then at the very top, you have this magician in his fullness. And really like look through this, and it's a lot of reading, but I'll tell you what, it's one of the coolest ways to look at yourself in terms of symbology. It's very cool stuff. Yeah, it's actually required reading for all of my students. Or you can just go right to the source and read the book. It's for sale on Amazon. But I actually think that what the guys at The Art of Manliness did is much better. It's much easier to understand. All right. So I'm going to pull this to a close because obviously I'm tired and I don't want to be yawning you guys all night while I'm trying to go through this material. But yeah, thank you for stopping through and lending me some of your time. I appreciate that. And thank you for those who are watching on the replay. And please go over to thedominance.academy.com. Check out the new assets that I have available in the tutorial section, and hit that big button in the top right corner of the website and book yourself a free consultation. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you once again, and we're signing off. Have a good night.